Kichwa to another session of Let's Set the Record Straight, Conversations with America. Today we're in Atlanta, where it all began, and we're gonna discuss the journey. A lot of people do not understand that the work that we've been done for the indigenous movement did not come easily. That it has been a journey for the last decade. And we just want to give a review of from where it began and to how we got to where we are today and what we have to do so that we will be able to sustain ourselves and keep our viability into the future. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator, and this is Sister Shanice.
That's all.
Nasoma. And so we're going to have Nasoma's going to ask questions, and we also have today some people who go back to the 1990s. Okay, Sister Robin and Brother Kevin's here, and we're just going to share some insight. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time doing this. So without further ado, shoot.
It's wonderful to be here in Atlanta with this beautiful background and these wonderful people that started an indigenous movement so long ago back in the 90s. I want to first ask you, Redan, who are Black Americans?
Well, Black Americans, as we think we are actually Amerindians of America. And the journey in the beginning was how did we come to that? That's so quickly hidden. You know, there is no race of people called slave. Okay, that's a condition that's being done to a people, but it's not an identity for a people. We've been here since time immemorial. And so where is the home space, the home with earth for this beautiful collective of people? Okay, and today that's being discriminated against as blacks, you know, but what race of people go around calling themselves blacks or naming their children black? So all these European terms, what do they represent? And the truth, and what are they hiding? Because that's a cloak. So the indigenous movement, when it started in 1997, okay, it just started with doing research through my own journey of asking questions as a result of experiences. So in that we learned that we are America.
So the
we're called
Amerindians,
which is, as you know, not American Indians, but America Indian. And this is a legal term that's hidden from us, completely hidden from us. Amerindians.
So
we're not American Indians. We are America.
What insight did you get as you were researching who the ancestors was of Black Americans? What insight did you pick up?
Well, the first insight that I was given was in starting the research, because my coming into the knowledge was a whole experience in itself. And in doing the research, I realized that America represented females. It's a bloodline. It's a blood. We are a part of the nature of this continent, the Western Hemisphere, that is identified as America. And as the people of America, we are one with nature. Nature is one with us. And in finding that out was a journey in itself where, as I kept asking the elders, you know, who are we? You know, what? And they go, no, we're American. No, they would go, we Indian. And there was a voice in my mind that goes back to me. It was a little girl. And it was my grandfather's voice. And he go, girl, you Indian. Girl, we Indian. You know, and I was like, we what? We Indian. Indian. I'm trying to bring it back to Indian because it comes right back. We Indian. But I didn't know what that meant. You know, my grandmother did, and when I would ask the females, some of them, you know, what did it mean? You know, well, we're Indian. And so it wasn't that I didn't know we were Indian, I just didn't have, like most of us, I didn't have nothing to put that Indian connected to. No culture, you know. And as I found out that the descriptions written by all the people, there are no light-skinned, dark, non-colored Indians. None. Very, very clear. Well, none. So if you are a person of color and you have the hair of the forest, which is the hair we have, okay, you're an Indian. And in order for you to be Indian, you had to be born from a female who carried the genetics for that. Not the male. It's the female. The female, the male can transfer complementary genetics. It's the female who has to carry the blood. So in understanding that, I'm like, what? You mean, you know, they used to go Indian princesses. How many of us heard that? Indian princess. Well, we all are Indian princess, and you're an Indian prince.
Okay. All right, and you have Brother Kevin and Sister Robin here. We want you to talk about how you started the indigenous movement here in Atlanta that long ago.
Well, Robin and Kevin go way back. What is it, 1991? Because you was there for the first book. And Kevin, you was there. We started out as Quantum Leap Spiritual Life Center.
That's right.
Right. And we and a sister named Lisa, who should be here but she's not. As we were working on our own healing, because there was so much defensiveness and pain. It's emotional pain. Everybody was in it, but you couldn't touch it. You didn't know what was wrong, but something was wrong, and our lives were going nowhere. And when I say going nowhere, it's not meaning that we did not have something to do, because we was always looking for something to do, something to get involved in. It was that it didn't make a difference what it was. It didn't fill that void.
And I remember hearing you and telling the story about how we're Indians. I've told you, remember when I told you I feel whole?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Remember that?
Right.
I felt like I was a person now. I felt like I had a beginning and an end. I had a direction now. I had a purpose. I was lost. I didn't know who I was. And when she explained that, no, we're people here on this earth from the United States, from America. I felt like I belonged, but I never knew I was from Africa. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel I was from there. And she said, you was born right here. I felt it.
And during the 90s, that was a big thing. Most people did not think. Only people who felt that they were from Africa were people who seemed like they had an issue with being from here. Okay, and we were being promoted to not value ourselves. Remember, there was no value for us. And see, and not just me, but the whole generation. Okay, you know, and the elders, and a lot of the people who were supposed to be the guidance for us, they had copped out. You know, I know people who was like, it was us and them, you know, and they would leave us out. They wouldn't feed us nothing. So here we were very much, my generation was straggling because we wasn't getting no direction, nothing.
We weren't taught anything.
Anything. We wasn't even taught how to comb our hair. I mean, that's how bad it was. So we was out there just swimming, don't knowing why we were swimming, surviving.
What water?
What water, you know. And the people would not say, the elders would, and it wasn't until I started saying we were Indian. And I was so elated. So I ran to WRFG and all of them and told them what I found. And that's how we all met. People were listening to it and the lines lit up. And I said, we're Indians. No, you asked your grandmother meant that we were here from America. You know, and I was all excited. And they cut me off the air. United States cut me straight off the air.
You have been making public talks of, you know, you've been enlightening the world by going to the UN. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that again was a part of the journey. Now that we're Indians, now your eyes open up. You're looking around you and you're like, oh, hell. This boat is in a real bad situation collectively. You know, what kind of people let all these foreigners come and don't have no place to live and gotta pay all this money and we're begging for jobs. Why aren't we making our own jobs? So at the time, you had the Declaration for Indigenous Rights being legislated, okay? And originally Empress of Washington was going to Geneva, and she was actually part of the committees. And Empress was getting ill, and when Empress had said to me, we had talked about it, she said, Renee, what do you want to do? And I said, I would like to continue doing that work. And I felt that I was most qualified because I understood what it was to be, and I would not be intimidated. Because it can be very intimidating when you go around a lot of other people, especially Native Americans, who are trying to say they're something that they're not. Okay.
Thank you. We were talking about your start in the UN and the work you were doing there. We want you to continue discussing that work, of course, but also the procedure it took, the processes it took to develop what you did, your products, and all of the like, and pretty much what you did, what you were doing here in Atlanta that got this whole thing started.
Okay. Well, I think we discussed how it got started, and basically. I ended up going to what? When did I go to jail? In 2000, right? Because I went to jail in 2000, and I stood in court for my indigenousness, and the judge told me, and it was over a dog, y'all, so it wasn't major, but they put me in jail over a dog, and then they gave me no lieu of bail because I told the judge I was not going to give him where I work or how I made my money, how much money I had. It was not necessary because it was a dog, and I didn't break any laws. It was my dog. I already had read the laws, but he informed me that I need to be grateful because of Lincoln. And I said, why should I be grateful because of Lincoln? He said, well, you know what Lincoln did. I said, no, I don't know what Lincoln did. You mean Lincoln, are you trying to say that Lincoln freed the slaves? And he said, yes. And I said, no, Lincoln didn't free the slaves. I said, you need to go and correct and do your history. I said, because that's not what happened at all. I said, the people of America freed themselves. We did not free ourselves from the system because we did not understand the system. So we ended up re-implementing the system again. But Lincoln didn't. He got angry. He was banging on his hammer, and then I got mad. I said, you got to stop banging that hammer in my ear. What, you crazy? I went a little New York on him, but stop banging on that hammer. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I was about to leave the well, and he had them stop me. And he put me in jail for Fayetteville, Georgia, jail I was there for a week, in lieu with no bail, not contempt of court, nothing like that. No bail in lieu of a dog, which is internationally illegal. You cannot hold a human in lieu of an animal. Okay, can't do that. So that was a law that was broken, and that's when I found out that Amerindian people actually are not considered citizens of the United States, and Amerindian females are completely permanent. So I left after he said what he said. I got out, I went to do a lawsuit, and I found out that the NAACP, any of the civil rights people, they would not touch it. And I said, but it's a dog, it's a great case, it's a great case. Here it is, a judge that did this. And they wouldn't touch it, and that's when I found out that they won't defend a female. They won't defend us. So most of your capital cases are never defended. If you notice, they're always males. Okay, we don't think anything of it because we always think that the males are only ones who are getting persecuted. Well, actually, that's not true. There's a female who was on death row just 3 years ago, and she didn't even kill the person. Her husband and her ex-lover, 5 years later, got into a dispute, and the lover killed the husband. and they went and put her in jail. She was married, moved on their lives, had nothing to do with this. Do you know they executed her within 4 years? She's dead. It became a capital punishment case, and they didn't give her life without parole. And they said that because of her original sin of adulterating on her husband with this man,
Wow.
she causes, and I believe it's New York State that did it.
Wow. The case sounds familiar.
Okay, they did it, and they killed her. So, I'm just giving you a quick example, but we never take it for granted that we don't have rights. And that's the reason why our children, if they're male, must emancipate themselves from us. Why do my husband, the male, got to emancipate himself? He is the duality of me. How can you are the creation of your mother's blood continuing into the future. So how can you emancipate from me? Okay? And they make it sound like, well, no, you're going to emancipate because now you can be your own boss. Well, you still got to follow the principles of life. You still got to follow the principles of nature. So how much of a boss are you really? But they give us this cloak. But the emancipation actually is from now you're moving yourself from the condition of being under captivity into this certain sort of freedom. But the females, we never can be free. We never can be anything we're under captivity. So that was like,
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of things that came to light to make you want to create this book that you wrote, the handbook, the Black Americans Handbook for Survival Through the 21st Century. What could we find in your book?
What you will find in this book is all the insights, the particular details that have been hidden from you to understand why we live in this system and how this system is systematically manipulating you so that you don't take the correct actions so that you can save your life, your quality of life, your ability to live. And that's what this book gives you. Step by step, point by point.
Excellent. And you also have products in which you, one of them of which you have right in front of you, Liquid Life. We want you to talk to us about what inspired you.
Well, that
to
goes
create
back
the
to the journey.
Right.
See, we done jumped around a little bit. But that goes back to the journey of the UN. So when I went, I wanted to go to the UN. And in going to the UN, you had to be sponsored. You just can't walk in there and walk into a function. You have to be sponsored. And the country of Panama felt that what we were doing, because we were indigenous, was necessary. So the country of Panama sponsored the foundation to come in and participate in the indigenous legislative process.
Wonderful. So how were you received at the UN?
Oh, they
And I
welcomed.
want to, were any?
They welcomed. Well, no, I was the only. I came, and another person. We had the entourage that came then, and we were very effective because we learned at the United Nations that all the indigenous people of the planet have been under attack. Everybody's under attack in the Western Hemisphere, and that in many ways they're looking at us to be in a leadership role. They're looking at what we're doing, and they're being influenced because part of them want to look like they are materially successful because there's a stigma put on naturalness. Okay, but at the same time they're realizing that we may have the materialism, but we don't have the knowledge to be able to apply it in a way to make a difference. Okay, because we have a lot of problems here, and we're very, very big populace. And so, here we are, we're struggling and stuff, but we got homelessness. We have to look for jobs. We're not making our own jobs. Where's our communities? Why are our communities dilapidated? We spoke to the United Nations and got them to do an investigation, F.I.A.A.H did, on Katrina. We documented all that stuff and sent it, and they did. They did a whole report because they asked us, all you have to do is ask us to come into your communities, and they did. So a lot of the stuff you may see on Al Jazeera and stuff, they've been continuing the investigations on what happened to us. We're really under a microscope, and we don't know it, but we're so busy being adopting these crazy narratives that keeps us from focusing on the point. So on how we're going to make it. You know, why aren't we building our own communities? Why do I have to go to somebody else's place and rent from somebody? What happened to the building? And it's covering the story of when the male and the female should be working as one. Why aren't we working as one? You know, so if I was to ever do a documentary just on that, it would be 400 years of patriarchy. What has it brought us? So when we originally started, it was just finding who we were, right? We went to the powwows. And the first powwow, remember the first powwow we went to? And they offered us.
Elaborate on that. What is the powwow? How does that look? How does that feel?
Well, most of the powwows are Native Americans holding on to a little bit of our culture. Okay, it's our culture, the lifestyle of our culture that will save us today. That's one of the biggest insights I've got. And they fragmented. We have fragmented it in our running, trying to live rogue, but we can't. So a lot of what's happening with us today is because we're not using the life that we were given that's connected to this, okay, correctly. So everything that's being done is our fault because we were supposed to be the guardians of it. And that is the reason why the ancestors did not put you down as, they said, you were Indian. And that's all they were said. So that we wouldn't understand nor question what does that mean? And if we're this, why are we doing this? You know, and so we all were raised to feel that the United States owed us jobs. Let's think about it. You know, the United States owed us everything. They owe you a job, they owe you food, they owe you shelter, land, they owe you everything.
Our land back.
Well, you never left it. You know, so, you know, our land. But the question we should be asking,
all right,
what are we giving back to them?
Now, Radan, you did speak on your time at the UN. Pretty much, what was the goals there? What was you put before the UN and?
Well, at the United Nations, I'm glad you asked that question because very few people understand that what the United Nations is, and it's a collection of states, colonial states. And what they do there is collaborate on how they're going to make international policies that affect their genocide of us. And so when we was on the Commission for Sustainable Development because they were allowing indigenous people, representatives of indigenous populations, to start to discuss what was needed for them to stay alive because the colonial system is killing the soils. It's killing the organ of the areas. So it's up to the indigenous people have the power to save it. That's the only reason why they did it. Because if we die and the earth die, they're gone. So there has to be a balance. And so we were supposed to be talking to us was to create legislation that gives us rights or privileges to interface with the colonial states over our soil, returning our intellectual property, our culture, and our right to live that way and not be assimilated into the colonial paradigm. So you have a right to eat your own food, to provide your own food, to govern your own children, and live with your culture without it being forced on you to live in the colonial culture of which one you was given, which was French, Spanish, or English.
Right.
And so for me, working with the Permanent Forum, working on the declaration, gave me insight that about all the dynamics and the details that it takes for you to occupy or oppress a people. Okay, it's not simply, oh, I'm just going to hold you and put you in jail. No, it's from the education. Education is a form of a simulation. Okay, so you're constantly training these people and conditioning this population to live outside its nature. And that has to be done with thousands of different details. So here I am, I'm with the people of Bolivia, and I'm with different peoples that are not of South America and Venezuela and El Salvador and Guatemala and even Mexico. Mexico is very, very indigenous minded. But you have to remember, the real indigenous population is the Negros. Negro is the word applied on indigenous population across the Americas. Okay.
And on that note, with the word Negro, we have the 2020 census coming up. My understanding, they removed the word Negro. I'm not sure, but are there some concerns we should be looking at with the 2020 census coming up?
Oh, of course, no one who has Negro ancestry should put down African American. We are not immigrants, period. It takes your right to even be considered for your indigenous inheritance rights given to you by the planet Earth. Not by whites, but by the planet Earth. It takes it away. So the United States, in order to have this as homeland, it needs to make sure that we follow a certain mindset. And that's why Trump just did the Juneteenth. You've heard the Juneteenth coming. That's a new narrative. Now our whole race came in from Jamestown. So it's up to us to push back. Now if we don't push back and we don't stand for our truth, then no one is responsible for what happens to us as a result. And that's been going on for the last 400 years. It's not that we're these downtrodden people. It's that we have not taken the actions to sustain our people in the future. We've been living selfishly. This is me, myself, and I, at the expense of the future generations. And then that comes with a consequence, which is allow the United States. So the United States has always been finding ways to implement us or to sell us some more trinkets and what? Beans. But there's no reason why the United States would want to house us, give us jobs. Why can't we make our own jobs? Why can't we be creative? And we haven't been creative. We have a responsibility. So if they're giving us all of this, what are we giving them?
What are we supposed to
Give them.
What are we supposed to give them?
I don't know. I'm asking, if they're giving us all of this support, what are we giving them? And we need to think about that. If America is our soil. So if they're developing on our soil, evidently we've been allowing them to what?
To use it.
Yeah, there you go. But you heard the magic word. Nobody's came and took guns and millions of people and put us in concentration camps against our will. Or have we gotten into concentration camps because they have been able to control the economics that we want? Okay, but is it their responsibility to feed us? Is it to clothe us?
No.
Make this money? Why don't we clothes our own, make our own? We did it for thousands of years. What stopped it?
We taught them.
Right. So the bottom line is that why didn't we pass the knowledge to our future generations for knowing how to do this? So when I went to the United Nations, okay, all of this stuff, because these people are still there. They're still cognitively aware. They know. And here I am, we're people who have not only have lost the cognitive awareness, but don't want to be bothered with it. And so then I had to go back to the elders again. Why aren't you? And now all of a sudden, people were very, very upset. I was being told, don't rock the boat. So
Well-
it changes the story, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, you are a teacher as well as an author and a business owner, and one of your students has a few questions for you. This question comes from Jawar. What are some of the basic traditions our ancient ancestors practiced?
They lived in principle. All law was based on principle. They even named our name was the principal people, Uwaja. Uwaja was the name of our original nation before it was changed to Cherokee. And guess what it means, y'all? The principal people. And we live through principle. You know, in New York, you have a thing called GP, and we was a part of that. The principle. And the principle was based on the laws of nature. And through those laws, it empowered us. Okay? And that's how they lived. And the culture was matrilineal. That means we respected the blood of the mother as being the heart. And the blood and the genetics that we got from the father as being the body.
Now, what divisions, disagreements, differences did indigenous people encounter amongst themselves before colonialism?
I'm quite sure from what I'm gathering that they didn't have it. From everything that I've read, they had no divisions. That everything worked as one. All people were married. All the children were part of a community. So your child, if we were related, all of our children. So all of our children had 100 mothers and 100 daddies.
Take a village to raise a child.
They were all put in principle, and that's what we did. I think that after colonialism came, or when the influence of patriarchy came, it started it. Because before that, but it didn't start with the people who were mature. It started with the young. You know, there's a time when we're a little cocky, and they went there. They also used whiskey. Okay, the whiskey by the United Nations was considered the most strongest war weapon used against the people in America.
To ignite it or to harm it?
Everything, to conquer us, everything is done through whiskey. Because it separates our emotional principle awareness from our intellect. And when that happens, you get an ego. And we didn't have that. We did not live in ego at all.
Okay, well, this probably also goes, well, I'll go into this next question. What steps can indigenous people of America begin to take with the power that already lives within them to transform our reality back to life?
Register and learn about your people, learn about your life, learn about your viability, and learn how to use that. You know, come back to nature, come learn. And that's what we offer the foundation. That was one of the things that this journey made us do, was return back to building. You can't build if you don't know how. But it's really all within us, but it has to be triggered. Right. So when people register with the foundation, we give you back, we train you back in the knowledge that has been denied you. So you can become creative again.
And please elaborate what you need to do in order to register.
We started the American Heritage Registry in 1999. And originally it was just to find out how many people were indigenous. Remember, because y'all are part of it, we just got the name and how many people in your family were Indian. And did you know it? And people started going, I think y'all did too. You went back and you went to your people and started asking them, and then it opened up a barrel of wine. Everybody was like, whoa, put you down in a tunnel here. Because then we started finding out we had earth in our family. None of the families did not tell anybody about anything. So we're up here, well, where's the earth? They got the earth. Then some people found oil. Some people found their families had 10 and 20,000 acres of earth. I'm telling you, crazy stuff. And they had been denied. It wasn't the United States who denied them. It was the
family.
families was to do things is they were coveting the younger generations who the inheritance was going to, and they were the ones that was selling it.
So,
They've been selling our earth since Reconstruction, but it hasn't been the United States. The United States has been buying. And what they did was they got families, and then the families could break down into units. Where that's not what our ancestors did. You couldn't sell anything because that was where you put your roots, and that when we always had a home. But everybody starts saying, "I just want my piece." Okay, and they were selling it. Again, we kind of walked into that.
Okay, well, I'm sure everyone probably on the call has the site, but can you say that site again? FIA.org.
Okay,
and what do you need to do in order to-
www.FIA.org, and really come and read about the process and the progress in our 20-year journey. Because it's been 20 years to get this book that you're reading now. Why is it a matter of color? And break it down.
I want each one of you to just touch on what were some of the challenges in starting this movement and to now.
Death threats. Death threats. Remember, we used to do the lectures? Because he used to be a bodyguard, stand in front because we were scared, it was death threats. And they weren't my whites. See, that's what people don't think. People were thinking that white folks were the ones that were our enemies. It wasn't. It was the Moors. Every time we turned around, people were being influenced to get into all kinds of schemes. We had people who were bootlegging everything. Oh man, bootlegging. Oh man, the bootleg. Taking the work and running with it, and then changing it so that the message would be there. Y'all, do you want to add something to that?
well, it was hard to form a group when there weren't believers. We couldn't find believers. It was foreign to them to say that you're an Indian. Oh, we're not an Indian, we're from Africa. So it was embedded in us. And it was hard to change, mainly Southern folks. It's really hard to change Southern folks that they're not African.
But I agree with that for a certain group. But when you asked them, but they all knew they had an Indian grandmother, and they all knew what tribes they came from. Everybody knew what tribes they came from. But it wasn't. I think one of the reasons why a lot of the people didn't want to do it because they felt that their jobs, if they went back to being indigenous, they wouldn't get their jobs. They may lose their jobs. So they wasn't letting it go. How about you, Evelyn? What you have?
I traced my two grandmothers, and found out they were Cheatamachis from Louisiana, and have a reservation, so-called reservation, almost in my hometown. And what inspired me was my father's nephew. He was his last name was a Chrétien, French, Louisiana, South Louisiana, mostly got French culture now. And he was dating somebody on the reservation. And when I heard that, I'm saying, dating somebody on the reservation? Yeah. And he had a daughter by the lady, the woman who was on the reservation. So every time we would get together as a family reunion, he would invite her. And everybody was curious, who is this young lady? Why is she connected to our family? And nobody knows. Years went by, until I had one-on-one with her. She said, yeah, I live my mother lived on a reservation. But I said, well, you look just like us. She said, well, the reservation is us. But the system tried to negate, to put a line, say, no, they're not. And that's why I started with Reverend Redine. He said, well, I got to get into this. Give me some more knowledge. And then when I went back, I went on the reservation to search The names, they were so angry with me. But at the reservations, you know how they keep people in check? They have Caucasians working in the offices of registry. They give me a little list, maybe 100 names on it. 100 names, and you gotta have thousands and thousands of names, but they only give me, oh, that name not on there. So I came back and said, I gotta get with this, get with the program, get with the program.
Absolutely.
And that was another thing that I learned working at the United Nations was how they were going to do it. We're a race of people. Like you said, there's millions of people. How did millions of people come down to 20 tribes of 50?
Right.
Okay, so because our ancestors never knew the word tribe. Okay, there was no such word. A tribe is a colonial word for breaking down something big to something little. So all of us, people, oh, I'm from so-and-so's tribe. No, you're not. Because the majority of the names of the people we belong to, United States has erased. All the United States is less than 1% of 1% of people. So all the people, because females are still producing what? More children, so therefore the population is shrinking, but it's still producing. The goal is to get us not to produce anything. So as long as we're producing life, we can't be in a tribe. So the UN was dealing with that. They never recognized tribes. You don't see the word? You don't see the word. We are a peoples. Peoples represent thousands of people. Okay? But we're not tribes. But you know how hard it's been to get, oh, I'm a tribe. Every time you turn around, some brother is trying to graduate and started a new tribe of 5 or 10 folk. And that's what they want. Because his little 5 or 10 people cut out 2 million.
Do you feel comfortable with that?
Yes, that's a conquer and divide method.
You accept this, you get this organization, this organization, this organization.
So what we do at F.I.A.H is that we accept everybody if you can prove you have Negro patronage and mother. You cannot be of nobody else's mother. If your mother is not Negro, we don't want you. You have to go with all the other groups out there. But only the full bloods or majority full blood, because some of our people have been infiltrated, but they went back. And that's a whole course in itself in just learning what they did there. And they're still following these policies. So it's not up to them to change, it's for us to change and not accept that. And when we come back together as a peoples, it's over. We will get what we need, but we have to take responsibility for what we need. Now that I understand the responsibility that people have earth, people understand that you just can't let people build all over the stuff. So where are we going to live? Where are our children going to have fresh air? Where are they going to get water if it's all polluted? Okay, this is what we need as a lifeline to us. So in that regard, we started the America Heritage Stewardship Program, where you can, once you're registered, you can invest. And we'll help find pieces of the earth. We don't buy nothing in the cities. We don't want to be in the cities. Okay, we want to be with some fresh air. We go out and we get some trees, and we go out and we get properties, and we're hoping that the young people will come and learn how to build indigenously, so that you'll have a way to live, communities. But we have to build those communities. We can't look for communities outside ourselves, and that's the insight that I've gotten. That all of the biggest killer of us is the fact that we want to be renegade. We think that we can live outside of life and what we are as life. We're not robots. We're creators. And this is what we have to return back to. And that's one of the insights that I've gotten. And the people who all over the planet, are fighting this influence to become material, to become artificial, to fall into a false narrative that'll give you a reason why you should just be about yourself, and living just for your comfort. And that's what's been going on for the last 200 years.
Well, what I wanted to ask you touched on it beautifully about the certain things that you are doing, the aspects of You have a registry that you formulated, and what year was that? 1990.
1999.
1999. You have that the indigenous
It used to be
registry.
called what, the American Heritage Registry, because we didn't know no better, but we started it. We've cleaned it up a lot.
Wonderful. So the next step now, what I would like to know is, where do we go from here? I mean, if we have, we have our people who are unfortunately not really even understanding where they're from. What can we do, regular brothers and sisters, knowing, understanding what our Amerindian culture is? What can we do to help the situation and move on from here?
Learn how to, one, eat straight. Two, I shouldn't say eat straight, I'm sorry. Long night, long day. We need to learn how to work with our direct earth. Okay, there's a lot of skills. Our men have to learn building skills. They have to learn how to build. At least know some insight of it. We have to come back to nature. Okay? We have to learn the culture. Okay, we have to learn that we are the guidance of our children. We have to make more investment in them. And when I say investment, it's not monetarily. It's teaching them how to develop their own skills. So what I do with kids is we give them puzzles, and I'm constantly telling mothers, create. And what I'm learning is that if you never created nothing, they don't know how to create. But if you don't take the first step, you can't be led to the second. So the first time is going to be a little rough, but the second time you do it, it's going to get easier. And then you're going to open up more and more and more and more. So we asking people, one, to be more creative, support what has been created for you. Life gave us 236 acres, but it just didn't give it to me just because I was talking. I earned it. I've been to all the countries in America. North America and Central America. I've been to all of them. And I went through the OAS, working through the United Nations, doing different functions for the Declaration. And I learned so much about our culture. Our culture is not dead. It is fragmented, but it's not dead. Everybody kept something. Okay, so I took it on my mission to get this from this one. This is what they're doing. You can feel it. You know it's real because we feel it. That's what they did. So the culture was huge. It wasn't limited to just a few folks. They did this culture. We were all the same culture. So that's what united us, was the culture and principle. And if somebody wants to do something, learn how to work with your culture. We adopt your culture. Wear our clothes. Create the stuff on your head. Stop saying you're from Africa. I mean, you don't know where you're from, anything will do. And get the book, The Black American, this book here, because it's going to give you a lot of the terminologies and what they meant, and so that we can start speaking from a position of truth instead of a narrative of fiction. And I think that'll save a few thousand lives, just that alone. And we also have to understand this, that life loves us. Life loves us. And most people are angry at life. And we just internalize all this anger, and we don't understand that you are life. I don't want to say the chosen, because we've made a lot of bad mistakes. But when I say life loves us, if we would only understand that we have a purpose. Each and every one of us have a destiny that's bigger than ourselves, and that we're part of a big planet. And the place that we're functioning in, the organ we're functioning in, is America. And if we would just come to learn about America, you would be so happy you're in it.
That sounds great. That sounds great to me. And also, you have wonderful products on F.I.A.H.org that you can learn about, Liquid Life, that helps support your life.
Okay, so
yeah.
Liquid Life. Now, how do I get Liquid Life? A dream. We were going to pick dream. Life told me in a dream. Most of my stuff comes through vision, and then I walk into it. You take the next step. Life was like, look, Because life does everything through action. It doesn't really talk, it's an action. You take one step, life will what do? Show you the next two. So, liquid life is pure clay. And our ancestors made food out of it. Our ancestors was seasoning, was clay. And they eat it. And it's the best pill you ever had. And because the food today is demineralized because of the GMO, it won't affect demineralized people. So what do you mean? Why won't it affect the other people like it affect us? Because one, your melanin tells you your mineral content. You look like what? Okay, so when we put the clay back in it, you're putting your melanin back in. You're strengthening your bones. Your body absorbs those minerals. And so when we eat this food that's demineralized, you put some more minerals in it. And it'll help your body process protein. So we've gotten a lot of good play. You know, but you also have the people who look down. I don't want nothing that looks like that. People who say that are racist. They're racist against themselves. So, you know, we have done that, and we've got this product, we got everything from the earth, you know, tinctures.
You mentioned your clothes.
You know, we make clothes, we're allowing, and as more and more people are getting into it, we have the marketplace where now we can trade. Now, all the stuff that we sell and make is only for Amerindian people. We do not sell outside of our people. This is made by the people, for the people. It can be through leaps and bounds. I am in my journey, like I just said about our blood, I am so proud to be an Amerindian alive today. And this journey has taught me what life is and how life loves us. It's not about our mothers, it's not about our daddies, it's not about all these superficial stuff. The blood in your veins is the most powerful blood of this planet. We are this planet. And if we only would come back to just finding love for ourselves in serving a purpose. Everybody needs to be planting trees. Everybody needs to be finding ways we can rebuild the forests. Because that's our Eden. America is us.
Now I have a question too. Like with your travels, how has that message been received in terms of the reclaiming of who we are? How is that received? Even from, again, part of the Native Americans, quote unquote, the Native Americans, how's that been received for you all too, in terms of maybe, you know, different places that you've been, in terms of, you know, them acknowledging or lack of acknowledgement of being Amerindian?
Well, I can tell you what the beginning of the process was. When I started doing that in the early 2000s, you know, they were like they didn't want it to happen. It's like, no, you know, and they were very, very negative. But when I wouldn't back down, and I mean, I don't back down, I have put too many of them. Because the minute we call the truth out, it stops. The next time you see them people, they don't bother you. So they got to see how true you are and how are you convicted and connected with your blood. Okay? Is this just something hypothetical or are you the real thing? Well, if they know you're real, they don't mess with you. They don't say nothing to you. They don't fight you. They don't even want to get all up. And they'll be around you. They're very cordial and everything else, but the fight? No, when I say I'm this, you better believe it, because it's not something I'm saying I'm making up. It's from within out, not out coming in. So it's a big difference, and they don't mess. But most of our people are so busy. Now, do they love it? No, because they're not the real thing. They're not the real thing, and they like the fact that we have become this passive people. Here we are, the people who can build monuments, the biggest monuments on the planet, but yet we're homeless.
You're homeless.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Here we are. So we the ones who have kind of cursed ourselves to get it. But once they know that you know, and that you're not going to, I know what I am. It's, and I think that's a message to sisters, because we carry the blood.
Yes.
And when we start taking more respect for the blood that's in our veins, then that's going to put the ballpark back into the brothers, because brothers come from us, and there's no white woman, no foreign woman can make you but me.
Absolutely. That's powerful.
So that's the laws of nature.
Right.
So when you cross the laws of nature, it comes with a consequence. And the consequence comes against your life and your ability to live in the future. So it's like, whoa, these simple things are really, really deep.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Reverend Vidine Amara. We loved you talking to you. We also enjoyed Robin and keep it on. Beautiful. Is there any last closing remarks that you would like to tell everyone?
Yes, I am no longer Vidine Amun Ra. The name Amun Ra was given to me when I went to Egypt, because Vidine is an Indian name. That's my birth name on my birth certificate. However, and it means keeper of ancient wisdom. And the first girl born of the new generation is given Vidine, because all the knowledge from the family, is going to be given to her. And so if you didn't know who you were, you're supposed to go to her, and she's going to tell you who you are. Okay? Remind you, because you forgot when they told you as a kid. And so it's also a name that is in a Kebulon in Egypt. And so when I went there and I said my name, they knew I was coming. I was like, really? I'm telling you, this journey has just been phenomenal. And so they took me to my temple. And there's a temple of Radine in Luxor, Egypt. And I was like, I'm not even going to sit here and say like I was. And they said, you have a lot of work to do. So I know that I'm on purpose. And I know I'm here to help us get our viability back, and that we can overcome this challenge to our life. It's just a life lesson. It's a collective life lesson. Let's win it.
Absolutely.
Let's win it. Because we can do this. Because we have the power, but we have to learn it. Return to principle again. A lot of us don't know what that is. I don't know what it is. That's fine. But we'll come back. Save the children. There are seeds. Give them the principle, and they will rebuild.
Great. Absolutely. Robin? Any closing remarks?
Just being here again, because it's been a while, and I know that we started together, and this is what happens. You lose sight on things, but it's in me. It's in me to get it back. It's in me to do a journey. So I'm excited again. But I've learned a lot, and it's already in you. You just have to pull it out of you, and then each one teach one. And I'm up to that challenge now. I think that I'm growing, and I'm ready.
Thank you for that. And people are
Always learning.
always learn.
That's the key. Learn. And the answers will come to you.
It will take you on a journey, but each and every one of us has one. And if they only understood that each and every one of us, life, when you was born, really, life wants us to save the life. We have the power. We have the creativity to save our planet, to save America, and save ourselves. Because when we do that, we will. So it's time to wake up, everybody.
Yeah.
Wake up, all the children.
Yes.
Get them out
That's
of
a
here.
good time to start. Good place to start.
Yeah.